We need to wake the hell up right now. I mean, seriously, get our heads out of the sand. The New World Order is being rewritten in real time. President Putin, Xi Jinping this week in China, basically rebuilding the New World Order with the United States being pushed to the side. Outcast. Even Trump called it out this week. He said Russia, China, India are conspiring against the United States, he said. And he's right. They are conspiring, not in an evil and nefarious way, but we are being pushed out. And some very smart people are sounding the alarm about what's coming, like Pavel Durov, the billionaire founder of Telegram, who just posted this, quote, both world wars started from a Western European country's attack on a Slavic country. Austria's invasion of Serbia in 1914, Germany's invasion of Poland in 1939. In the 19th century, the West invaded the Slavic lands unprovoked during the Napoleonic Wars and the Crimean War. So he's not reciting trivia here. He's flashing a warning light right now because once again, Western Europe and the United States are jockeying for influence in the Balkans and in Poland. President Trump this week going all in on Poland. NATO and the U.S. pouring money, arms, and propaganda into fragile states like Serbia and Bosnia. And I can only wonder, are they ready to explain to their citizens how it ended the last times we meddled in the Balkans with 2 world wars? And I'll tell you something from my own time in Serbia. When I visited recently, people there talk openly about the pain, the suffering brought by NATO. They haven't forgotten the 78 days of bombing ordered by Bill Clinton and NATO back in 1999. They remember huddling in their basements as NATO jets bombarded Belgrade and other parts of the country. Bill Clinton bombed the Chinese embassy on purpose, trying to send a clear message. This is our country to exert power over, not yours. And here in 2025, throughout Serbia, you can still see the bombed-out buildings that stand as scars of that attack. It's a living memory for them, for the people I spoke to in Belgrade. They remember NATO's vicious attacks.
Did your family talk about what happened in the late 90s here?
Yes.
Yeah.
My dad was there in the war, and that's awful thing. So we're not so.
It's very
We can't,
stressful for people here to talk too much about that.
Yeah, they carry that trauma. And they view NATO not as liberators, but as the people who rained fire down on their families, destroyed their country. And here's the truth. The Balkans right now are a powder keg. Everyone's eyes are locked on Ukraine and Taiwan. But the real story is here. This week I spoke to a journalist in Serbia who said, Clayton, people don't understand what's coming. Putin wants ports all up and down the Adriatic and Aegean Sea to secure Russia's southern flank. Putin would love nothing more than ports all along this area. China, meanwhile, expanding its Belt and Road projects through the Balkans to reach deeper into Europe. Their oil and natural gas interests are off the charts, important for China. Turkey is angling for influence from Bosnia to the Greek islands, while the fight over offshore drilling rights near Greece is intensifying right now. And of course, America. They're trying to destabilize Serbia, tighten NATO's grip. Recently, NATO expanded its presence in Kosovo, a territory that Serbia doesn't recognize as its own country, but in fact part of its country. NATO built a massive base there called Camp Bondsteel, right in their backyard. So this region is about to explode. If you pull up a map, you'll see it clear as day. Russia, China, Turkey, and the United States all converging right here, right on Italy's back doorstep, treating the Balkans like the chessboard of empires right now. Serbia is getting pissed. They've drawn closer to Hungary in recent months, which is a NATO and EU pariah state. They hate Viktor Orban. They hate Hungary.
Those who love conspiracy theories are in trouble. They have to find new ones because the old one proved to be true.
Bosnian leaders want to break apart that country and aligning it with Serbia, bring it all together as part of a united Serbia, which Putin absolutely supports. NATO does not, FYI. And it's no accident that Russia's Wagner Group is operating heavily in northern Africa right now, because from Libya to the Balkans, these corridors of influence all connect. So when Durov warns us over the past few days that history is repeating itself right now, he's not exaggerating. The Balkans were the spark before, and they're shaping up to be the spark again. As former Croatian president just said, the Balkans can quickly descend into bloodshed. This is a powder keg waiting to explode.
Is the Balkan powder keg likely to explode again?
I personally and a lot of us have been saying for a number of years now. However, the second great potential is to descend into turmoil and bloodshed very quickly.
And here's the part that stuns me. While NATO and the EU are busy lighting matches in a tinderbox right now, the real story of last week just unfolded in plain sight. And the United States media, mainstream media, barely even touched it. I mean, we covered it here on the show, but the mainstream media didn't even acknowledge it. Putin, Xi, Modi essentially laid out the new world order at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in China. That was the single biggest story of the week. And if you missed it, it's because corporate media wants you distracted. What we saw at this summit was nothing short of a total rearranging of the world order. Putin stood side by side with Xi Jinping, with Modi, projecting unbreakable unity. They weren't just smiling for the cameras. They were declaring the end of a unipolar dominance of America. Together, they represent half the world's population, trillions in GDP, and the lion's share of the world's energy and resources. And they're building their own financial and military architecture to shield against United States sanctions and endless regime change wars. Here are just a few of the highlights. Xi unveiled a global governance initiative, a new SEO development bank. Instead of relying on the IMF, they announced new partnerships in energy, technology, infrastructure. They even announced access to China's Beidou satellite systems, which is an alternative to GPS satellite systems. Putin pledged resilience against sanctions. Modi asserted India's independence. This was a declaration that multipolar order is here, multi-nations with their own sovereignty. Right now, and the United States, it's losing its grip on its unipolar plan, which is the United States controls everything. Sorry. Meanwhile, the United States keeps overreaching. Washington thought it could just box Russia out of Europe, but actually Putin just turned his back on Europe for good on his own, sealing the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline deal with China. We covered this on the show this week. That pipeline is a $100 billion geopolitical divorce from Europe, shifting Russia's energy eastward to China. And Europe? They're now permanently cut off. Washington thought it could keep India in its camp, but Trump's moves to block India's rise as a great power, pressuring them on trade, undermining partnerships, only pushed Delhi closer to Moscow and Beijing, strengthening the BRICS alliance. The very strategy meant to contain China actually strengthened the China-Russia-India axis. And this week, Putin issued his starkest warning yet. He told NATO directly, if Western boots step foot in Ukraine, it won't stay a regional fight. We will kill NATO soldiers.
Втягивание Украины в НАТО. Поэтому если там будут появляться какие-то войска, особенно сейчас, в ходе ведения боевых действий.
End of story, he said. And he pitched what he called a real peace through security guarantee, but nobody in Washington or Brussels wants to hear it. They want an endless war with Ukraine. And of course, now peace is falling apart in Ukraine once again. More land advancements from Russia, more dead in Ukraine. Putin just launched a devastating strike this past week. Estimates we heard this week have now Ukrainian dead soldiers nearing 1.8 million. And at the same time, Washington is preparing yet for another reckless adventure, plotting to overthrow Venezuela's government. Warships repositioning into the Caribbean. Maduro says he's prepping for armed struggle in case of a U.S. attack. What are we doing there? Colonel Douglas McGregor said it best on our show this week. He said, I can't wrap my head around it. There's zero strategic reason to attack and overthrow Venezuelan government. And yet the people in Washington can't stop themselves. So let's connect the dots here. Durov warns us the Balkans are once again a flashpoint for global war. NATO is meddling in Serbia, Bosnia, Kosovo, the very kind of powder keg that lit World War I. Putin has permanently turned away from Europe toward China. Trump's missteps shoved India into the multipolar camp. Putin is laying down red lines over NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine. Washington is opening a new front in Venezuela when its own military advisors and leaders can't even see the logic of that. They don't know why he's doing that. And then you have the China summit where Putin, Xi, and Modi told the world in no uncertain terms the new world order is here. So that's the news update part of today's video. Now I want to focus on today's sponsor, but first some context, because what underpins the new world order is resources, minerals, energy, hard assets. I think what we're seeing in China, what we're seeing in the Balkans right now is all tied to minerals and resources. I mean, look at the fight right now in Greece over these islands and the underwater drilling. I mean, this is the foundation of the power in the 21st century, just as it was in the 19th And just as it was in the 20th century, without them, you can't fight, you can't build, you can't trade. So that's why Trump himself is pivoting to a trade and minerals strategy. And that's why I've been following a company positioned right at the center of this minerals pivot. All of my moves, by the way, in the past year have been tied to the end of the unipolar order. The United States even becoming more isolationist, focusing on its own mineral rights and resources in the United States and in this hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere. America's empire is overextended, our debt is unsustainable, and here's where Trump's business instincts are attempting sort of Washington's new approach. Use trade as part of deterrence instead of bullets. You saw him hosting America's tech giants at the White House this past week as if to say, hey, let's win in AI, and then everything else will fall into place. But of course, to do that, America needs minerals, lots of commodities. And so to me, that's where the opportunity is, because the West neglected self-sustained mining in favor of just-in-time outsourced supply chains under Obama, Biden, and Clinton. And now, of course, we're playing catch-up big time. And I was tracking some breaking news in the past week, and when I found out about it, I had to share it with you guys, because two pivotal announcements this week that I wanted you to be in the loop about, because you're literally one of the first people in the world to learn about these moves. So pay attention to this. So in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a monumental breakout in the price of gold and silver. A lot of people know that. It's well understood that commodities, minerals, and hard assets are part of this global trade war right now between the United States and its allies, and China and its allies, with the global South countries led by India all in the mix in all of this. So the price of gold is up 30% in 2025, 38% in the past 52 weeks, 80% in the past 2 years, and 110% since bottoming, along with the stock market back in October of 2022. So now it has tripled since the December 2015 bottom, and the gold mining stocks are surging as well. I mean, the GDX ETF is up 80% in 2025. Yeah, 80%. It's nearly tripled since that October 2022 bottom. It's up 370% since the December bottom. By the way, the GDXJ is up 82% in 2025. It's up 352% since December 2015. Now, I profiled companies on this channel this year that have doubled, tripled, and one company I showed you on this show that surged more than 400%. Now, many major commodities bottomed a few days after Trump announced his Liberation Day, which was April 2nd. Gold bottomed on April 7th. Silver bottomed on April 7th. Uranium began rallying on April 7th as well. Lithium, though, kept tanking until June 24th, when it bottomed and has since then surged by 30%. So lithium is especially important because its bear market was absolutely vicious. I mean, it was a bloodbath. It wiped out enormous equity in the lithium market. But get this. In December of 2020, lithium began its breakout from 40,000 Chinese yuan per ton. And by November 2022, its price reached 600,000 Chinese yuan per ton. That was a life-changing 15 times or 1,400% increase in just 2 years. But then it collapsed. I mean, if you asked me what was the most contrarian bet a commodities observer could make, I would say lithium, because it plummeted by 90%. In March of 2025, then Trump invoked emergency powers under the Defense Production Act to boost domestic critical minerals production, explicitly targeting lithium alongside uranium and copper. So the message is clear from Trump and others. Lithium is essential, and it's not to be left in the hands of China. So that kind of thinking is over. We're not just outsourcing this to China anymore. So what happened this past week, the breaking news I wanted to tell you about, is that today's sponsor, which is a gold company called Vanguard Mining, they made two big opportunistic transactions that now give it exposure to gold, uranium, and lithium, all at the same time. So here's their ticker on your screen. It's Vanguard Mining. They're available on Interactive Brokers and Schwab, any of the major brokers. Now, this past week, Vanguard Mining, which owned a gold project in Canada, has now closed on the acquisition of the UT Promedio uranium project in Paraguay, and it has reclaimed 100% ownership of the Poquitos 1 lithium project in Salta, Argentina, turning it from a single asset company to a multi-asset company on just the past 4 days alone. I mean, that's why I had to share this breaking news with you. Vanguard Mining's current market cap is $10 million. When it last owned that Poquitos 1 lithium project back in 2022, its market cap reached a high of 75 million USD under the company's previous name. Again, Vanguard Mining, before it changed its name, was a pure lithium company. It owned the Poquitos 1 project, and its market cap appreciated to 75 million. That's 7 times its current market cap in a lithium bull market. Today, its market cap is just $10 million. And guess what? It just reclaimed that same lithium project, the Poquitos 1 project. It also owns a Canadian gold project and a newly acquired uranium project in Paraguay. So these two transactions just turned Vanguard Mining from a single asset gold company to a multi-asset resource company with gold, uranium, and lithium. And just so you understand, in the past 3 years, the company's flagship lithium project was left for dead, and the share price got destroyed, down 98% top to bottom. The company was worth $75 million back in 2022, based on the same lithium project it just reclaimed. And today, on top of that, when the company owns a uranium project and a Canadian gold project. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here? And on top of that, President Trump and Argentine President Javier Milei have just made several statements on lithium, positioning Argentina, where Vanguard Mining's project is located, as a global supplier of critical minerals. I'm going to quote the Argentinian president, quote, "If they come to buy it, I'll sell it. These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities like rare earths or lithium," end quote. So his administration has focused on deregulation in Argentina to attract investments in the lithium sector, which is vital for Argentina's economy, given its position in the lithium triangle, which holds over 50% of global resources. Simultaneously, the Paraguayan government, where Vanguard Mining's UT Prometeo project is located, has taken significant steps to bolster its uranium industry. So bottom line, it's been a pivotal week for Vanguard Mining, from a single asset gold company to a multi-metal gold, lithium, and uranium company in top jurisdictions that Trump believes in wholeheartedly. So global uranium supply has been in deficit for years. Major mines have been shut down. Underinvestment has crippled exploration. Secondary supplies are drying up. So guys, it's time to do your own research on Vanguard Mining. I'll have links to their website below so you can dive in and read for yourself and do your own due diligence. And I'll see you next time, everyone.